Hey, welcome back. We just got a piece of news from last Epoch from the devs. This is item gifting development. Choice of word, doesn't say trade, but basically this is trade. This is how trade is going to work. I have not read the Reddit threads. I haven't read this yet. We're going over this live on stream, twitch.tv/ParrowThePig, where we want to play Last Epoch, but we don't quite have enough reasons to. So we'll be playing Last Epoch in January, but right now, news. Let's read through this. If you want to skip ahead, go skip ahead. If you've been following Last Epoch, you're aware there are big plans for how trading will work in the game. In this dev blog, I'll explain the reasoning and design process that brought us to our current plans and what those are. All right, so let's talk about philosophy. I love this. Let's. If there's not a comparison to Path of Exile, I will be shocked. One of our core beliefs when designing Last Epoch has always been that it feels more rewarding when you find and or craft the items you use rather than buying them. And that this also helps keep item drops exciting because there's a reasonable chance that the dropped item itself will be useful for your character. Because of this, we've always wanted to ensure that killing monsters and playing the game is the primary way of acquiring items. It reminds me of that fireside chat that David Brevik had when he was like brought on for Torchlight Infinite. If you haven't seen the fireside chat talking about action RPGs, it's a funny one. It feels very strange. However, we wanted to have a player economy on top of this. This led to us designing various iterations of the bazaar, this bazaar thing, an auction house or player shop style system, always with a lot of restrictions on the rate and the type of items players could trade to hopefully keep the system under control and ensure that the items you could acquire in this manner didn't eclipse those found from drops and or crafted. They want the primary way for you to get items to be playing the game. That's our core tenet right there. We've also seen the devs say in the past that if you want an action RPG that is a market simulator, if you want to do a whole bunch of trading like that, this is not the game for you. That's something that we've heard them say in the past. The more we found problems with these iterations of trade, ideated new ones, and advanced those ideas, the more we realized that any of these economy-based trade systems would damage this progression. Economies are extremely complex, even when they're limited to video game items. They're often unintuitive, they change over time as the player base finds more items, and they can act very differently depending on the number of active players. There have been multiple dissertations written from people who are doing the doctorates, whatever, on online economies. I don't remember the name of the space travel thing. Maybe someone in Twitch chat remembers this. But there's like a space action RPG. It's super famous game. Billions of people play. That economy has been the matter of or the subject of some papers in the past. You can Google that and find out. So yeah, economies, video games, awesome. Eve, thank you. All of this makes it very difficult to accurately predict how an economy will function in practice and balance it accordingly. Ideally, we want it to feel relevant and useful and not overtake other methods of item acquisition, but realistically, the unpredictability of an economy renders that level of balance precision impossible. I agree. The downside of getting it wrong could be trade taking over the game, making item drops unexciting, and ruining the balance of the game's combat. Yes, I'm excited so far. Another question we were increasingly asking ourselves was whether anyone would be happy with the system and have a good time using it. Players who want to play the economy and exchange the valuable items they find with other players were going to be faced with an impersonal and restrictive system. They would likely be frustrated and feel that their expectations of playing an online action RPG with an open trade economy has been betrayed by such a limited system. Meanwhile, players who want an action RPG with generous drops and crafting are still likely to experience the pains of us having to balance around the existence of a trade economy, or at the very least, their item drops would feel worse because the higher standard items had been okay. So this is are you trying to please everyone, or are you okay cutting it in half, discarding half of it, and only catering to one of those audiences? It is very hard to make both sides of this happy. I don't know whether Path of Exile currently does a good job of this, because they balance around trade, but div cards are nice in SSF. I haven't played Path of Exile in like 2 years now. I don't know how it really is over there in that regard, but it's hard to balance your drops around both trade and SSF. Are you going to do group SSF? Are you going to do like how many other game modes are you building at the same time? Like how many different things are you balancing for? Very hard. Unless you're individually doing everything, right? Which, with these conclusions in mind, we pivoted away from having economy-based trade and we canceled the plans for the bazaar. Yeah, we knew this already. Got it. Specific item acquisition. Let's see. Item trading definitely has some significant benefits in an action RPG. One of them is that if you want to play a build that requires a specific build enabling item, you're not just praying that it drops. You can reliably farm up currency and buy it from somebody else. This means that unless they're particularly expensive, needing specific items to get a build going is much less of a barrier for creating that build. Right now, I don't think it's very hard to get anything in Last Epoch. Like maybe the squirrel helmet is hard to target farm, but you can target farm it. Like the drop rate blessings that you can get and the specific drop rate in Monolith, like you can target farm, like, set unique helmets drop here. It's not that hard to target farm stuff. Like maybe the perfect, ideal 3LP one. Sure, that's hard to farm, but I wonder. This is particularly important nowadays because in contrast to the subgenre's roguelike roots, much of the action RPG community has trended toward wanting to plan out a build from the start and reliably progress towards that, rather than making most of the decisions on the fly and adapting heavily to the items that you find. And this is a process that a lot of players enjoy and something we want to ensure that we support. This feels like Path of Building, which is super interesting. I wonder how much Path of Building changed action RPGs and influenced this block of text right here. However, trade isn't the only way, or even necessarily the best way, to support that. The flip side of being able to acquire any item through trade is that the process of acquiring the items you need for your build is just the process of farming currency. So the activities you do and the places you farm are whatever's the most optimal to farm currency. I like that they're calling this out because I hate that. This runs a big risk of turning a potentially varied endgame experience into a very repetitive endgame experience, where only a small part of the content is experienced over and over and over. Good. I agree. I agree with what they're saying so far. I wonder what their conclusion is going to be. Meanwhile, if you need to farm the items themselves and those items drop either exclusively or more frequently from different specific places of content, then that naturally entices you to engage with those different places of content to farm those different items. This means that hunting for gear is a more varied process, good, for an individual character, good, and is more different from one character to another character, good, as long as they require different sorts of gear, good. Okay? Because of that, we want to continue to rely on powerful target farming methods rather than trade to facilitate specific item acquisition. I'm on board. I like it so far. Yeah, okay. Let's see, how long is it? Sharing discoveries. Oh, okay. We're like more than halfway through. Sharing discoveries. One of the other benefits of one player being able to trade items with another player is that when you're playing with a friend and you find a cool item, you can give it to them. I know that's a really simple sentence, but it also seems like a really core piece of what they want Last Epoch to be about. That's an experience that can feel great because it's a way of meaningfully helping your friend out in a way that isn't always felt so often in the fast-paced combat of action RPGs, read Path of Exile, but it's still one that resulted from you playing co-op together. There are two sides to this though. A player giving items to a friend isn't an unquestionably good thing that always leads to a better experience. Action RPGs are games about progression that are inherently more about the journey than the destination. And a friend skipping that journey for you by giving you all the items often drastically short circuits the adventure of the game and makes it less enjoyable. Don't give a tabula rasa to a brand new player who's never played the game before. I'm on board. I like it. I've said these same things before. I totally agree. Stop giving all of your leveling gear to brand new players. Let them play the flipping video game. Another danger with unrestricted item gifting is that an economy can grow up of its own accord, coordinated and facilitated by the community. It is certainly cool to see a game's community achieve this sort of thing. However, this can result in all the same problems that a developer-created economy can, while also being less convenient. Exactly like Path of Exile. Nevertheless, our primary goal with multiplayer is facilitating a great co-op experience, and we felt that a big part of that is being able to share your items with the people you're playing with while playing together. With all this in mind, we set out to design a system that facilitated the sort of co-op item gifting without a full economy. Sign me the hell. Okay. Earlier this year, wait, what is this? What's this? Item gift received, keeper's gloves. Okay, so what item? Okay, this thing, take the item. Sure. What are they doing? They're like item gift. You click the gift button down here. Wow. Earlier in the year, we said that trade wouldn't be included in patch 0.9. I don't think they said this. I think they used different words. I think they said very likely not to be, or like there won't be a full-on trade. I think this is like slightly imprecise. Actually. The community reacted with disappointment to this announcement, so we prioritized getting our item gifting system ready to be tested by our community testers. That testing went well, and we're confident in detailing the system publicly to be included in patch 0.9. In this system, items that drop while you're adventuring with other players in the same zone can be gifted to any of those players at any point. This can be done by right-clicking the portrait and selecting Gift Item. This brings up the inventory alongside the gifting window, highlights the items in your inventory that can be gifted to the player. Then you can simply place the chosen item in the gifting window, click confirm, and the item will be transferred to the other player's gift inventory. The player will then receive a notification in the bottom right corner of the screen telling what they've received. From there, they can either transfer the item to their inventory now, leave it there until later, throw it on the ground because their friend gifted them an item that has no affixes. Gifting your friend a hat that has no affixes. All right, that's on my to-do list. Trade in an action RPG is a topic that has many passionate people on either side of the conversation. However, we want Last Epoch to be an action RPG that at its core is about going out into the world, killing enemies, finding awesome loot, and finding awesome loot. Not an action RPG where playing the economy is the key to success. I mentioned like way up higher in this that this seems like the kind of post where they're not trying to please both parties. Like they're focusing their game. They're trying to make the best Last Epoch possible. And this is how they're going to do it. It's not going to make everyone happy, but it's going to make the best Last Epoch possible. I believe in it so far. I think this is a good approach. We strongly believe that this approach will make the game more enjoyable co-op experience and a more balanced solo experience. With this, we'll be able to preserve and continue to improve all the systems we built for Last Epoch in terms of progression and the player experience without having to sacrifice them to accommodate extensive item trading. We'll be closely monitoring feedback, blah, blah, blah. I like this. This echoes a lot of things that I've said over the past 5 years about Path of Exile and Last Epoch, other action RPGs that I played. Okay. Yeah, I want the devs to make the best Last Epoch possible. I know I just said this. I want them to make the best Last Epoch possible. I don't need this to cater to every audience. I don't need it to cater to everyone who plays Path of Exile. Path of Exile is a great game. I don't like it anymore. I don't really have an interest in playing it, but lots of people like it. And if you want a huge economy that you can like manipulate and have market trends and all those third-party tools, it's there for you. It already exists. This is not competing in the exact same way in the subgenre of action RPGs, right? It's competing in like its new, unique way. I like this so far. Let's take a moment. I'm going to read Twitch chat. Let's see. This post feels like they're straw manning. They say, this is the problem with totally unrestricted trade, so we decided to make... This is the problem with totally unrestricted trade, so we decided that trade itself is the problem. Okay, I understand what you're saying. So we decided that trade itself... So you think, yeah, this is the problem with unrestricted... I hear what you're saying. Is trade itself the problem? I don't have too much to say about that. I'm just going to read that again. This post feels like EHG is strawmanning. EHG is saying, quote, this is the problem with totally unrestricted trade, so we decided to make trade itself the problem. It's a bit reductionist. I get where you're coming from. I don't mind this approach. So many Path of Exile people will be mad, but I think it's way better. Yes. I think if you, I mean, people like Sir Free For All, one of my mods in chat, the guy who made the big squirrel build in last Epoch, I guess showcased a really min-max version of it. Sir Free For All is like really looking forward to games that he can manipulate the economy in, and he wanted to buy all the boots that had exalted movement speed, and he wanted to corner the market on that. But of course, he can't do that. So if he plays Last Epoch, he's going to have to find some other kind of enjoyment in it. He probably still will, but yeah, the game doesn't cater to everyone. But again, like I said before, I think when you focus in on one audience, you can make the best game possible instead of trying to cater as widely as possible. Let's see. My problem with this is that it incentivizes group play as drop sharing as possible. I don't want to play in the same zone as other people. I'm not a fan. I'd rather have nothing than this. Makes me feel bad playing solo. Really? Does this incentivize group play? I don't know. So I think about this from my own perspective is that I'm going to play solo if there's a good solo mode. If character bound solo is the only solo, I'm not going to play solo. But if account bound solo is an option, account bound solo is basically what SSF is in Path of Exile, then I'm going to play solo. Because then I can, trade items with my other solo characters because they're account bound solo. So that my perspective is that I tend towards solo play anyways. This does not make me feel like I'm missing out in some tremendous way. Like, the reason to play with other people is you want to have cool interactions and you want to have like a support build. There's someone who's casting Dreadshade on the Lich, right? Doing weird things like that. I don't think this overly incentivizes group play. Maybe like in a completely normal way it incentivizes group play because you can play together. But no, I don't think so, man. I don't agree with you there. Let me keep reading, chat. People who enjoy Last Epoch just for the combat gameplay should still be very happy. Yeah, I agree with that take. Seems accurate to me. Let's see. Scroll. Go to a boss with 5 people, 5 times the chance of getting high LP of the target item. Go into a boss with 5 people, 5 times the chance of getting a high LP item. You still need to have the quest state, don't you? I think you still need to have the quest state, so like you still need to like go through all the missions and everything. Maybe. I don't know. If that is how it works, if like 5 people, so if 5 people all have the quest state for killing the Spirits of Fire bosses, and then like you did this 4 people party, right? The 4-person party. So 4 people all have the quest state. They party up, and 1 person does the boss, and like the 4 people walk into the boss room, and 1 person monolith and kill the boss, and then everyone leaves and go into the next person's boss. I don't think you can do that because that person doesn't have the quest state. If you don't have the quest state, you'll get. I suspect that they've thought of this, and I suspect that your fear is not how it's going to work. If you want to go in the dev Discord and post this as a question, that'd be a great idea because that is a good question. But I suspect that they thought of that. Oh, what is this? Don't go solo. You want to be able to show off your builds to other people. and you want to like show off your MTX, that's a good point. I do want to show off MTX. Yes. What the heck? All right, so I think we know what Twitch chat feels about this. Seems like most people are happy. 1 or 2 people are hesitant about this. I'm not gonna read Reddit on stream, but as soon as this video ends, we're gonna go read Reddit. So if you have any reactions to this, either put them on Reddit and I'll read them immediately, or you can respond to the comment section of this YouTube video. So I'll see you next time. I'm looking forward to January, looking forward to March 9th, where we can finally play multiplayer. I'll see you then.